are indeed in the series called What's All the Fuss About, where I will be breaking down the events of Easter and showing us the significance and the relevance of those events. The reason behind this series is because sometimes if we've been celebrating things year in, year out, sometimes we don't question the relevance, or sometimes we just don't question why we celebrate things, right? And so here is why I've created this series, so that you and I can learn together and can understand the significance of what we're actually celebrating. So today we are talking about Good Friday. So let's get into it. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Krupa and I create faith-based content here on YouTube, and I post every single week, so be sure to subscribe if that sounds like something you'd be interested in. So this is obviously a day that we acknowledge salvation and Jesus' sacrifice and the cross, the crucifixion, the concept of sacrifice in itself. I remember a question that completely threw me off for a good few months, because I was like, it's true. Someone asked me, if God is like so mighty, then why did he need the sacrifice of Jesus? Why didn't he just say everyone is forgiven and everyone will be forgiven? It was something that I battled with so much. I feel like I have peace about the answer to this question, which I'm going to address in this video because it's relevant to do so, right? But Good Friday is obviously acknowledging this very thing, the sacrifice of God himself, and why that was even necessary. So number one, acknowledging the cross is to acknowledge our sinful nature. The reason why the Lord needed to take on the cross and needed it to be a sacrifice is because it's basically given us insight into the spiritual world, that sacrifices speak. Sacrifice is loud and clear in the spirit realm, which is something that we find so hard to understand because we're not like completely in touch with that realm. A lot of this requires our faith, and so sometimes it's hard to connect that idea of like sacrifice to our understanding, to our logical understanding, right? I just want to disclaim, I probably won't do it justice because it's something that's so hard to explain unless you've got like hours on end. But where I'm trying to like cut this, huge concept short, I hope that it just kind of relays what it needs to relay, and I hope that you then go on to do further research. To acknowledge the cross is to acknowledge our sinful nature. In the Bible, you see in the Old Testament that people would go and sacrifice their livestock to show God that they're sorry and to ask God for mercy. Do you see what I mean? It's that sacrifice is a transaction in the spirit. So when you sacrifice something, you are then asking to gain something. So whether that's God's mercy in what I've just explained, or whether that's another realm of spiritual sacrifices and spiritual rituals that is requiring like money in exchange or fame in exchange. Do you know what I mean? And the reason why God himself needed to take on the cross is because humans couldn't have done it, because we are sinful beings. Like even the age of Zoe, like she is only 16 months, and even her, like for example, if she's not supposed to be touching something and she touches it, she looks at us to say like, yo, I know I'm not supposed to be touching this, but I am touching it. So what are you going to do about it? I'm not labeling her as rebellious. I think she's so innocent and she's so pure, but I'm just kind of drawing to the example of like, kids don't need to be taught things like this. Do you know what I mean? I don't teach her these things, but she just naturally, innately just knows that like, okay, I know I'm not supposed to touch this, but I want to touch it, therefore I'm going to touch it. And that example is just symbolic to the very first account of the fall, which is Eve taking the bite of the apple after being told not to eat from that one tree. She could eat from every other tree but that tree. I say all of that to say, like, we could never take on that level of sacrifice, but God himself said, look, I am the spotless lamb. For it to be a very high sacrifice in the world of the spirit, it needs to be me. I need to sacrifice myself. And so God being spotless, God being holy, God being righteous took on that sacrifice. And so for us to acknowledge the cross is to acknowledge our sinful natures, knowing full well that there is a need in us of that sacrifice, of a savior who took on that sacrifice. So number 2 is acknowledging the cross is to acknowledge God's sovereignty. I mentioned it in my last video, which is the video about Passover, but these moments that we're going to be talking about, Easter, is resembling those very last moments of the game of chess between light and darkness, and God clearly has the last say. And although it looked like the devil had a hold of Jesus, and although it looked like the devil had won, God said, there is something that happens after this. So have your moment of darkness. In John, it says that Jesus said, this is when darkness reigns, but it was temporary. And so this is a clear indication that God is sovereign over all things. If this is something that you are going through, where you're currently in a season, or you're currently in a place in life where you're like, damn, this feels so dark, this feels so heavy. If you're taking anything from this video, let it be this: be encouraged that God is sovereign over all things. So even if it feels like the devil or the hour of darkness is reigning, just know that you are in a place of privilege, knowing that you are on this side of the chess game, that God is sovereign. He has a plan for you in Jeremiah 29, right? And so the same in this. God had a plan for humankind, and although it looked like the devil had won, although it looked like, yes, we finally nipped that Jesus in a bud, Jesus said, honey, you've got 3 days. So that is the same thing over your life. So be encouraged, sis. The last one is obvious, and to acknowledge the cross is to acknowledge the love of God. Now, let me just give you a second, right? Think of the one person that loves you so much. I mean, like unconditionally, like loves you through your ugly, your naked, your most vulnerable. And I want you to think of that person and realistically think, would they take on such a gruesome sacrifice for you? Would they take on such a gruesome death? I mean, there was one point in the account in John alone that Jesus was blindfolded and slapped and said, prophesy, who just slapped you? Literally, the depth of mockery. Would that person take on the cross? Would that person be whipped, like lashed on the back for you? Like, just think about it. But we see in the Bible that Jesus' sacrifice is not forced upon us. We're given a choice, meaning that God's love is so deep for us that He's willing to go to that place of sacrificing Himself in the hopes that we will come to accept His sacrifice. So He's not going in the confidence that we will accept it. He's going in the confidence that He hopes that we will accept it. Meaning that His love is so deep that whether we take it or not, whether we believe it or not, whether we accept it or not, He is still willing to take on that cross just in case you decide you're going to accept it. That is how deep the love is. For example, take mother and child. Say that mother decides to put herself on the line, sacrifice herself for, their children. Now imagine if she thought, I don't know whether my children will appreciate it. I don't know whether they will accept it. And so maybe this isn't even worth it because I don't even know if it's going to have the effect that I want it to have. Now imagine in that same scenario, she's like, you know what? I'm not sure that they're going to accept it. I'm not sure that they're even going to appreciate it. I'm not even sure that they know the relevance of it. But I'm still going to do it. Just in case they do see it, just in case they have it in them to appreciate it. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. Do you see the difference between the two? Like the difference of the love between the two? I hope that you are, and maybe this is like a very lousy analogy, but I'm really hoping that you're understanding what I'm trying to say. Like I said, these are like really huge things that I'm talking about in these videos, but I'm attempting to do it, and I'm just praying that the Lord does the rest, basically. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you are getting something to dwell on during this day of Good Friday. I shall see you in the comment section down below. Let me know how you feel on Good Friday, because I remember somebody at school told me every Good Friday it always rains. And since then I'm like, damn, every Good Friday it always rains. And that is not something that I look past, and I don't know whether that's fact, by the way. It's just where I was in the world. Every Good Friday it will rain. Yeah, let me know on this Good Friday how you guys are feeling, what you guys are doing today. So I shall see you in the comment section down below, but I shall also see you in the next video. Bye.